and cast members Isabel Furman, Amy Forsyth, and Delone. Hi everyone, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So Lauren, you mentioned in your intro a little bit that this, you have experience as a rower. I'm hoping you can just speak a little bit more to that and how and why you decided to bring your own experience into this first film of yours.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small podunk Texas town. I didn't know what rowing was. I got a flyer in the mail one day, and it just looked a little bit more intense than an intramural, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and do this. And I showed up, and I learned about the sport, and it consumed the next 4 years of my life. I was completely obsessed. And so I was double majoring. I was taking 18 hours a semester. I was doing internships. I was working. I was in the film program, and then rowing 20 hours a week. And by my senior year of school, it really felt like survival. I would wake up in the mornings and be crying as I woke up, just thinking about going to bed. I taught myself to take 30-second power naps in the boat. I was just counting down the days for it to all be over. And so when it came time I actually come from a career in post-production sound, because when I wanted to be a director, but I went to school and quickly imposter syndrome, all of that came into being. I started working in sound in LA. I met some success there, and then I really got the confidence, if these people can do it, then I think I can too. And so when it came time to make my first film, you hear this advice all the time: write what you know and write only a story you can tell. There aren't that many rowing films. There are very, very few. And so for me, this became the obvious answer. And I wanted to tell a story about rowing. And so it was just, I wrote this in the first draft of the script in 3 weeks. It was just complete catharsis. And over the span of the next 2 years, as we try to get the funding made, I would, work in different elements of my life and things like that. But to me, as I said when I introduced the film, it's a film with rowing. It is not a rowing film. And I think that the themes are pretty universal.
Isabel, your performance is so incredible, seriously. This couldn't have been an easy character for you to play, and I'm curious what you did to sort of make it through each day.
I wrote a lot. I think I really connected with Alex on a very deep level, because I myself have been in this industry for a really long time and had so many goals that I'd set at certain places in my life, and I understood that feeling of wanting to reach a certain goal by a certain point and pushing yourself so far that you isolate yourself from everything around you in your life. You push other people away, and you kind of feel like the whole world is turning in on you if you don't achieve this one end. And so, interestingly enough, I felt like doing this movie kind of allowed me to access that and almost release a part of that into this film and leave it behind, in a sense. Getting into character was essentially doing what Alex did. I mean, I was rowing every single morning for 4 to 6 hours, and then when we were filming, I was rowing before we would start the day, and I would go to the gym after we ended the day. And I was actually just yesterday looking at old videos on my phone and how exhausted I was and how tired I was. I mean, there's nothing left but raw emotion, and I think that's what really kind of put me in a great place to play Alex. Is I really felt like everything I had to give, I gave on set, and I was so invested in rowing as a sport and truly fell in love with it. And because I had felt like I had to be the best on set, I really felt that need that she has and carries through the entire movie. And I think Lauren said it before, she had this lookbook when I read the script that went along with it, and she said that Alex is a conqueror and she's a conquistador. And so I really felt when we finished the movie, I was like, yeah, we did it, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Amy, the relationship between your character and Isabel's character is so complicated and gets so dicey at the end, and I'm wondering if you can just speak to a little bit about the headspace that you think your character was in, and her relationship with Alex.
That's a good question. I mean, it was tough. I've known Isabel for 5 years, and we're friends. And it's hard to, when you love someone so much and you see how hard someone is working, to like have to be so cruel to them all the time. But I mean, Jamie's coming from a place of need. It's not. It's necessity. It's not. And I mean, you had your own different need, but it was Jamie's own survival. She needed that scholarship, and so I think, you know, when you're supporting yourself, you'll do anything. And so I think, as much as it came off as maybe a little cruel, I don't think Jamie was thinking really much about her at all. Just thinking about herself. Gotta take care of herself. A little selfish, but sometimes you gotta be.
Delone, the relationship between you and Isabel's character is really dynamic and really beautiful, actually. And I'm curious what you think how your character was able to see sort of past the destructiveness.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys, because this is so freaking cool and stunning. You guys, I love you guys. Well, you know, Danny is like such a bad bitch, and she's super ambitious and intelligent and really caring, and you know, she's also really creative and pursuing other things. And so I think she saw herself in Alex and could relate to Alex's ambition, but Danny was more ambitious in like a healthy way. So she was kind of just like, dude, like, I got into the college of my choice. I'm doing exactly what you're doing, but like, you just gotta chill. And I think Danny really wanted to be there and, you know, to help support her. But Alex just, you know, wasn't having it.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a really interesting question for you, Lauren, from the audience. Are Alex's wounds intended as a Christ reference?
No, they are not. Definitely not. But they are. We did sort of play with where the location is, and to make them somewhat symbolic in terms of raven wings and things like that, and just like thinking the logistics of where could she have them, where could she hide them. But no, there's not a Christ reference intended for that.
Can we talk about the shooting of that last scene and how long it took? And I don't understand.
Neither do I. Talking about the final rowing scene. That was a nightmare, guys. They tell you when you make a film, shooting with animals, water, and baby are the worst things. And the first week as a director was on the water, and we had a week on the water. It was supposed to be like 4 days, and then it went to 5, then it went to 6. But that last scene was shot over the course of 3 different days, because we only had so much time to do everything. And me and Todd, the DP, is amazing. We would get together in the morning and draw out these little stick figure storyboards to get exactly what shot we needed. And that was the one scene at the end where I was like, guys, I don't know if we have everything we fucking need, because we had like one take to do everything, and just the way you're orienting everything. And and the fucking city opened the dam and did not tell us the night before a shoot, so all the boats were getting sucked down the fucking river, and like it was just a nightmare. Amy was running into a goddamn tree.
Listen, there was a lot going on. I was in a Raven. I'm not a rower. I had most of my training was in a quad or in a 4. I did not. I think I trained in a single like 3 times, and those things tip, and it was absolutely freezing, and by freezing I mean literally freezing, like 0. I'm Canadian, so Celsius, but 0 degrees, whatever that is. And so I thought, if I tip, I'm gonna ruin this, because we can't reset. Like
I thought the same thing. I was like, those girls better not tip.
Oh, can you just also, you're new to rowing, can you just get in a Raven? Oh, it's dark, it's freezing, you can't feel your hands. If you could just put on a Raven head where you can't see, and then also be in a canal where those oars are long, so you can, and then on top of that we have camera boats that are taking up more space, and then a lighting boat. Like, there are so many boats.
Sound boat, safety
So many boats moving around all the time.
I was suddenly just like I was just going towards, and the boats are expensive, and I was like, I'm gonna ruin this whole movie. And all of a sudden I turned around, like someone was quietly, because we were rolling there, like, there's a tree, and I was like, somebody tell me about the fucking tree. Like, I'm gonna ruin everything. It was wild and the coolest thing. And like you said, when we finished this, it was like, holy shit, we did it. It was
yeah.
It was nuts. Oh, and there was rain too.
Oh yeah, there was rain, there was fog, there was real rain, like real fog. It was just an absolute. It was winter in Ontario that we shot this, and Isabel went into the water. She fell into the water until literally she was freezing and her hands weren't moving anymore, and we couldn't do any more takes. So.
Yeah, that was I think we were gonna get a wetsuit and then something ended up happening and I just remember I was like, Lauren, I'm gonna do this for you 3 times, but I can't promise I'll be able to do it more. And I think we did it twice.
We got 2.5, and
I
then we
had
had
2.5. It was too cold. It was so cold. Yeah.
So this is something I was going to ask as well, but from the audience, someone commented that they loved the music and sound choices you made, unsurprisingly. So could you talk a little bit about how that came together and how important I assume that the sound was for you?
Yeah, I mean, sound is huge. The sound design also. So I'll talk briefly. The music, you know, the songs, the 1960s love songs. For me, this is really, you know, I framed it as a romance between a girl and a boat, and I've really framed every scene as a different stage in the relationship, from first spark to the clunky beginnings, to the first time making love, to in the bliss, to the first fight, to the things start tumbling out of control, and it becomes this toxic thing until we have our breakup. So I really wanted these 1960s love songs to kind of hit that, and like this, it's such these rowing scenes aren't about rowing, they're about the emotions that she's experiencing. And in terms of the score, like this was the one thing about the film that I never had a clear picture of, and it really bothered me all through most of 2020. I was losing my goddamn mind, and I was also learning French. That was my pandemic hobby, and I only listened to French music for an entire year. And I came a point, I think August, I was so fucking sick of hearing French singing, and I was like, I can't listen to anymore. I went on a drive. That was my other pandemic hobby. I put on this playlist from The Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and there was a bunch of like other score things that were in it. There was a track from The Farewell from Alex Weston, the composer. And I heard this song, and it fucking hit me, and I immediately turned my car down Angeles Crest Trail, sped straight home, completely retemped the music for the entire film, which had been sitting that way for 9 months. I cut 7 minutes out of the film. I had this whole like creative epiphany, like the 11th hour, and I ended up I told the producers, like, I want Alex on this film, and I sent him this like really impassioned email, basically just saying all this, and being like, you have to come on to the film. And he did, and I actually just met him 2 days ago because of COVID. He's based in New York, and I'm based in LA at the time, and it just worked out beautifully. So, yeah.
To Alex.
Yeah, to Alex.
And Dylan, do you have a song in the film that you wrote?
Yeah, actually, I had to audition with Lauren, and that was terrifying. Actually, my friend who is here, his name's Nigel, he helped me write the song, and initially they asked me to, when they were looking for somebody, they said, can you play the guitar and can you sing? And I was like, yeah, I can play the guitar. And then the song choice that they picked, I was like, I can't play the guitar. I can't play the guitar. So it was pretty dope. We were able to bring Nigel on board, and so the song's called Everything I Am. And yeah, that was really cool. That was my first time performing in front of everybody, and for it to be in a movie was just so fucking sick. I'm sorry, I keep cursing, but like you guys curse so much in there. I figure it's okay here. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a great question from the audience coming in. So they were hoping to hear a little bit more about discussion about the issue of mental health and straddling the difficult line between perseverance and mental health.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, for me, I've had my share of mental health issues, especially this past year, as I think probably a lot of us have more than usual. And for me, you know, something that I've learned growing up, I'm 31 right now, but it took me a long time to get to now. And Isabel was talking about this too, this idea of how hard do you push yourself. And in this film, to me, you know, we hear a little bit about Alex's backstory in high school. This idea that she was 51-50'd, and that was what basically stopped her. She was forced to stop. She goes to college. And to me, she levels up, this idea that she chooses to quit in the end. Like, that to me is her character growth. Like, she's accepting this thing. And I think, it's fucking tough. And I think as a woman too, you know, we see, at least in film, there's a cliche that when men are going through these emotional, this anger, these things like that, they destroy outward, they punch, they kick, they scream, they start wars, they do this. Myself, speaking as a woman, speaking as the women that I know, it's like we turn inwards, we destroy ourselves. And for me, you know, I've experienced rage and things like that, and it's really like I don't, you know, you don't want to take it out on other people. You don't want to destroy their things. You end up destroying your fucking self. And so I don't know if there's, I don't have any solutions or anything like that. But like I'm curious, what do you think, Isabel, like having to work through this and connecting with your own?
I think I said this to you the other day when we had another interview. I was saying that I don't even think I know how to balance or walk that line. It's like, you know, I think when you have a goal and you have something that you want to achieve, at least I find myself that I push myself past where people around you are saying, oh, you can chill out, you can relax, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But like to you, it's absolutely everything. It's all you want. It's all you see. Like you can taste it almost, and it's so close and yet so far away. And I think that in my own life, I think I've just tried to find ways to create kind of I wouldn't say balance, because what exactly is balance, like balancing your life, but more of a harmony in terms of like what I dedicate my time to, how well I treat myself, and how well I, you know, work on things in my life without really kind of beating myself up about it. Because I agree with Lauren, like I've self-imploded sometimes, you know, and nobody around me wouldn't even notice, you know what I mean? Because that's what, at least, I mean, I feel like, I don't want to generalize, but it's true. I feel like women tend to do that. We tend to really go inward, and it all becomes this sort of like mind fuck going around and round in circles. And so I would just say that I have no idea how to strike that balance, but I think I'm trying to work on it every single day. And I think that, like we talked about this, how if the movie ended, it's like Alex would be going on to her job and would probably have a similar sort of story outside of college. And it is that like little incremental growth of evolution that you learn as you go through life, I think.
And therapy is really good too.
Meditation.
Meditation.
Therapy and
The other thing is like someone has to choose to help themselves. I mean, and it's, some of it takes like reaching out. Like you have in this film, Danny tries to reach out and be there for her, and Alex is just like shuts her out. And it's like you cannot help someone who can't help themselves, who doesn't want to help themselves. Like you have to get to that breaking point, which I think at the end of the film Alex does. She hits that breaking point of finally being able to move to the other side. But it's just not an easy thing to solve, I don't think, and obviously we all know that. So
do you see the end as a victorious one?
to me, this ending, her looking in the camera is, you know, it's calling back to The Graduate, this idea, this whole film where he wanted this girl and whatever, and then finally they're on that bus together, and then it's like, well, fucking now what? Like, you got what you wanted, you got this thing, and then like now it's over. And like this film to me is my existentialist anthem. Nihilism, very crudely put, this idea that life has no meaning. Existentialism is life has no meaning, comma, you create your own meaning. And for Alex, for the year of this film, rowing was her meaning, is what gave her purpose, which made her wake up in the morning. And at the end, she's got to this point where she's satisfied, but now there's nothing left. And so she's this blank slate, and she's gonna be searching for the next fix, the next thing to focus on, to obsess on. And I think she is bound for more of these adventures, but hopefully, adventures if we can call them that, but finds like a balance eventually. I can say as someone 31 writing, I took basically 4 years of rowing and 10 years of coming of age and compressed it into a year for this film. I still haven't found the balance. I'm constantly looking for it, and maybe by the time I get 50, 60, 70, maybe it'll come. We'll see.
Even when we wrapped the movie, I mean, I had a very similar kind of dip afterwards, and I think and you guys would attest to that. Like, when you finish working on a film, you have this condensed sense of time where you're like working with these people every day, and you fall in love with everybody, and you see everyone every day, and it's like this, like every day you wake up and you're so excited, and then you're going through these emotions and learning who this character is, and then it's all over one day. And it's like, very often you're sitting there going, well, now what? Like, what, you know, what is next? And I think there's so much of that sort of culture, too, where people are always asking you, what's next? What's next? And I think, you know, honestly, it's okay maybe not to have a what's next. Like, sometimes you're like, I don't know. Whatever happens.
Yeah, and I mean, the one maybe good thing with the pandemic is it forced me to slow down in a lot of ways. It also drove me insane, but like, it gave it a year of everyone having to just sit the fuck down at the kitchen table and just be in a house and be with your thoughts, for better or worse. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm glad that portion of the year is over and that we're all here together tonight. Thank you again for being here. We really, really are so honored to have the film at Tribeca. And thank you all for coming out, and get home safe tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Coming.
Thank you.